Hi, Global Locals. My name is Jill. I live in Baños, Ecuador, perched halfway between the mountains and the jungle, about 3 hours from Quito, Ecuador's capital.
C'est la vie, we in them roaring 20s.
Back in the late 1980s, I took a teaching job in Quito, and I was teaching 7th grade English at an American school, the Colegio Americano de Quito. Ever since the first time I came to Baños, I said to myself, someday I want to live there. And I've made that dream a reality. In 2006, I made the decision to leave my life behind and pick up everything and move back to Ecuador. In the year 2000, Ecuador was dollarized. First, in the markets, they were charging $1 for everything because they didn't understand the coinage. The fact that Ecuador is dollarized makes it that much more attractive to people from the United States who choose to retire here. If you can pull out $500 to $600 a day from an ATM, that's way more than sufficient for what it takes to live here in Ecuador. I ended up staying for almost 2 weeks at a hostel in Guayaquil. And it was great because I met a lot of people there. I decided to buy a truck. Now you definitely have to go through the hoops. You can probably get as many different answers as people you ask what their experience was for getting a driver's license. I think the best way to look for housing, really take some time to walk around and get a feel for the neighborhoods. Ask the ladies in the corner stores or the guardians in the front of the buildings, is there anything available on this block? Those are the people that know. You can ask the neighbors to learn more about it. You don't know some of that until you're actually in the place. You can use these plusvalia. I know foreigners who live very simply in a small town for $150 or $200 a month rent. And I know people that spend $1,200 a month for a penthouse, fancy building. So there's the whole range. The minimum wage salary in Ecuador is about $400 a month. I lived for several years on $600 a month. I don't drink. Alcohol's expensive. I think the main attitude towards foreigners coming in is that they bring in money. A lot of the requirements for visas, if you're getting an investor's visa, for example, you have to leave a big chunk of money in the bank. 15 years ago, it was $25,000. Now it's over $40,000. And you can't touch that. It's in an interest-bearing CD. And some of the interests are 9.5% and 10%. So, it's not a hardship to leave that money sitting. But the truth is, if you have your visa based on that, you can't touch it. It's held by the Banco Central, is what it's called. Someone owns a business and is earning money here in Ecuador, they have to get what's called a RUC, R-U-C, which is a tax ID number. The SRI has established an easy way to do it, which is called RISE, R-I-S-E, which instead of having to pay taxes based on how much you earn, they take like an annual average from a paperwork and a mathematical perspective. It's simplified. That's what the S in RISE stands for, is simplified, simplificado. And you basically end up just paying whatever, $30 a month, $35 a month, based on what your annual income historically has been. So you qualify for RISE if you have a going business. You can kind of prove what your base earning is. A majority of landlords who could afford to do so cut the rent in half during the first 10 months of the quarantine of the pandemic. At least 8 or 9 months of that first part of the quarantine. I've heard figures that here in the town where I live, 30 to 40% of small businesses went under in the last year and a half. There's a whole new crop of businesses coming up as tourism starts to be reactivated. A lot of foreigners only socialize with other foreigners. Cuenca is the hub of expat, but many are what I would call economic refugees. They cannot live on their pension in the United States. Many of them are people who have never been out of the United States. Someone told them Ecuador is just like home at half the price. And they came down without even realizing that Spanish is the national language. They've never learned a foreign language in their life. They feel like they're too old to start. If you're only going to be involved with other people that learn English, then there's really not enough to keep you going. The people who have made an effort to learn a little Spanish, the Ecuadorian people are very, very generous of spirit. Just learn greetings, thank you, and numbers. If you come 5% of the way, the Ecuadorians will come 95% of the way. The attitude toward the local culture and the local language is going to make all the difference in how you get treated in the local community. Volunteer at a foundation to help kids who are learning English. Stepping outside of the gringo bubble. Really making an effort to integrate in the local community. Charities that help get people off the streets. There's all kinds of ways to find your way into a community. Break out of the expat bubble into the local society. You're in Ecuador. The national language is Spanish. Make an effort. At least say good morning, please, thank you. The lady that runs the corner store in your neighborhood can be your best teacher. She has all the time in the world. She's stuck there in that shop. Ask her about her children and her grandchildren. Most people are genuine, are authentic, and are truly interested and kind. Pilas. There's a national campaign that's ponte pilas, like be smart about things. Put the batteries in yourself. Ponte pilas. If someone says or does something that you think is really great, chévere. In Quito a lot you'll hear de ley, which literally means of law. And it's like absolutely must be for sure. If you're going to go deep in the jungle and spend extended time volunteering or working with local communities, you might want to have a yellow fever vaccine. You also might want to do malaria prophylaxis for deep in the jungle. The healthcare quality in the big cities is excellent. Many, many of the doctors were trained in Cuba, the United States, in Europe. The facilities are state of the art. I got private healthcare as soon as I moved here. It's called Salud SA. It's in Colombia and Ecuador. And they have their own clinics and labs and imaging centers. Every doctor through my health insurance has been excellent, respectful, thorough. Unfortunately, I've had to have 4 surgeries and I've had to pay almost nothing out of pocket. A lot of people are getting the minimum required health care, IESS, National Health Care System, Instituto Ecuatoriano de Seguro Social, and it costs about $75 a month. For mine, I'm paying about $130 a month. The IESS healthcare is complicated. Many people just pay out of pocket and go to private clinics. You can get in to see a doctor for $15, $20. If you needed to be seen in an emergency room, you are seen and treated at no cost. That's a thing I think a lot of foreigners have a hard time with. It's a whole different sensibility of noise, kind of your own private space of noise. Another thing is the concept that people will think that they're telling you something you want to hear. So they just come up with any old thing. When I go and drop something off and ask when it's going to be ready, I go back fully expecting that it won't be ready so that I won't be disappointed. You know, it's about managing expectations and letting down what your cultural mindset is, loosening it out. Always greet people. If you just walk up and say, I need this, you're going to get treated like crap. You have to say good morning. You have to say buenos dias, buenas tardes, como está, the greeting niceties. If you want to get treated the way you'd like to be treated, you need to understand how the cultural framework is laid out. Always greeting. One of the things I love, if you're sitting in a restaurant, anyone that walks by your table is going to say buen provecho. If you have food in front of you, they're going to wish you a good meal. Buen provecho literally is like, take good advantage of your meal. You're dining, so they're going to wish you a good meal. And I think that's a really, really lovely custom. So if you have an opportunity to volunteer in a community and connect with the people in a really significant way, try to do it. It will really enrich your experience, give you perspective. on your own life. Probably the most unusual thing that is typical of the Andes is cuy, guinea pig. Not like a guinea pig pet. They're like 8 pounds. Vegetarians are not going to be thrilled about that. Another national dish, mostly in the mountains, is yapingachos, which are potato pancakes.
Enjoy yourself. We in them roaring 20s. Must be them roaring 20s. C'est la vie. Yes, indeed.